We're live.
Why you gotta interrupt me, Jeff? Welcome to Party Chat Peoples. My name is Xavi, and I am joined today by Alex, who has been on the show before, and newcomer Jeffem. That's what it says on your thing, so that's what I have to call you, obviously, Jeff.
Okay.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're gonna talk about video games and things. What are those particular video games and things, Alex?
On the docket today, we have news stories. First being Sony limiting the download speeds based on our current COVID-19 situation. And second is social events in gaming spaces. I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about that subject. I think as of the time of this recording, both of the links to those are down. However,
Oh snap! Hold on. We have a surprise guest joining us spontaneously. What is up, Matt?
Hey, made it.
We've got the agenda set and all that, but we can throw your games into the spreadsheet if you jump in there, man.
All right, where's the spreadsheet link?
You know what? I got to give you permission to it. Alex, continue with the rundown. I will get on that.
excellent.
A wild Matt has appeared.
We'll put up the links to those news stories later. In terms of games, as of right now, and it will be changing with the addition of Matt here, we have Division 2. The topic we've yeah, he knows.
Why you make fun of me?
A tried and true game that Xavi has spoken about on multiple occasions. We have Risk of Rain 2, Red Dead Redemption 2, just a lot of sequels here. Animal Crossing, the new one, which I don't recall what the name was. Does anybody recall?
New Horizons.
New Horizons.
I think. Yeah.
Thank you. Couple of board games, Carcassonne and Chess, Doom Eternal, the latest addition to the Doom series, and Don't Starve Together.
All right, excellent. So let's take just a moment to get Matt set up, but then I think the first game that we've got on the docket to talk about is I'm gonna get Division 2 out of the way. So yeah, let me hold on. I just need to do a tiny bit of work, and I cannot multitask because humans can't multitask.
Okay.
One more item I forgot about.
Actually, you know what?
Special topics.
Yes.
We're going to talk about user created
And then Alex,
content.
take it away with Risk of Rain 2 when you finish.
Absolutely. So special topics, user created content, who owns it, our favorite games to create content in, and mods in general related to those games. So while these guys are getting set up, I guess we'll start with Risk of Rain 2. I thought we were doing news stories first, but just to save on time, we'll talk about Risk of Rain 2. Risk of Rain 2 is a roguelike game. You select a character that gets thrown into this crazy alien world where you have to find a beacon at the end of the level and defeat a boss monster and then get transported to the new level.
And the second one is 3D, right? The first one.
The second one is correct. So the sequel that they released, I think, back in September or so of 2019, is a 3D version of the original game that was released many years ago. It's a roguelike game in that your drops are random. The levels that you get thrown in are semi-random. They get cycled in every 4 levels. So like the first level and the 5th level and the 9th level can be a certain one out of 2 or 3. The weapon drops that you can pick up are anything to help with your health, to help with your fire rate, or change the types of attacks that you make. There's certain rarities of items. Obviously, the more powerful ones are rarer. Let's see. What else can I talk about it?
So you like the roguelikes. You talked about Isaac last time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how would you compare them? What are their differences?
So Risk of Rain is a little slower paced compared to Isaac. Isaac, you have one level with a bunch of different rooms in it, whereas with Risk of Rain, every level is this huge map
Really
that
now?
you can
Okay.
explore. Yeah.
And it's procedural, right? Procedurally
Uh,
generated?
so the levels are actually set up the same way. So like if you pop in the same level in level 1 and level 5, it'll be the same other than
Okay.
the areas where the boss monster is and where the items are and what those items are.
Gotcha. So
I
layout
think
of the overall level is static.
correct.
Okay.
And I really enjoy roguelikes in general. Risk of Rain 2 has kind of scratched my itch to, I've been waiting for some kind of sequel to the original Risk of Rain for a while, and the fun part about it is you can set difficulty. If you're feeling like you want to play God mode, you can just set it down to the lowest difficulty, and if you get any reasonable amount of items, you could just never die. A buddy of mine had a like 2-hour run where at that point we were just done for the night. We wanted to stop playing, but we had so many items and so much healing that if we literally just stopped, stood still, did nothing, we would heal faster than we would get damage. Like it was impossible for us to die.
Okay, so you can get those same God runs that you got in Isaac, where it's just like, I am God, nothing can touch me now.
Yep. But it does take some work to get to that state.
Co-op up to 4 people?
Co-op up to 4 people, correct? And they're adding more and more items and characters and levels. It's still currently in beta, but
Oh, okay.
you can purchase it off of Steam.
Roguelikes are good for that, yeah.
Yeah, but it's a hell of a lot of fun, and then you can do. I think there's either a mode to play cooperatively or a mode to just screw over the other players. Yeah, frankly, like I can buy an item from a drop, and somebody else could pick it up just to mess with me. So.
I'm getting flashbacks to World of Warcraft.
Don't pick up my drops, man.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So
that's funny.
That's Risk of Rain 2. I highly recommend it. I love it. It's a good
All right,
game.
let's pivot back to news stories since I've ruined everything, and start off by talking about Sony limiting download speeds. So this is in response to COVID-19. They had done it in Europe a little while ago, and now they're doing it here. It doesn't affect gameplay, they say, so that's not surprising because what you need per second for upstream and downstream when you're actually playing a game is jack. But when you're downloading games, these 100 gigabyte monsters, right? It can take a toll on the network, and this is really them saying like we need to look out for internet stability during this crisis time, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it makes sense because if the internet collapses, all hell's gonna break loose. So we kind of need the internet.
The internet is doing like mental health work for everyone. Let's be real.
Yeah.
It's keeping everyone sane.
Yeah.
And in a way, like it's I kind of feel like I mentioned this last week, but like I've been a programmer for so long, so like working from home has been kind of normal for me. So I feel like in a lot of ways, like society is catching up with the kind of techniques that I've been used to, and like it's just kind of funny. Like nowadays, I had an old roommate who would watch Netflix shows while he was working. He was a graphic designer, and like that was his way of working. And now so much is going to change about how we work. Hopefully, I don't think like with the case of downloading giant 100 gigabyte video games, that probably can take a toll on the network. I don't imagine that it'll get bad enough that we have to worry about like Netflix being crappier or something like that. I don't know. But hopefully, everyone can just take it in stride and not be entitled assholes because we know that gamers can, get a little
Oh
antsy.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Not to get political, but guaranteeing broadband internet to everyone seems like a good idea right now because the internet is what's holding things together.
I mean, I put a post on Facebook a little while ago where I was like, "Hey, you want to talk about like keeping everyone's spirits up and like, uh, how much like the internet is helping us and like viewing it as a public good? Like maybe you should start talking about New York City public broadband." But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, that's what was that?
No, I was saying that's definitely a necessity. I think you made a really good point there.
Yeah, I mean, our ability to actually do this whole like socially self-isolating thing is so hugely contingent on the internet right now. It's
Just kids
like
being able to go to school now. They
right.
need the
I
internet.
know it's nuts and nuts, and that kind of can lead us into the next news story, which is uh, the myriad activities that are now taking place in video game social spaces that used to take place in meet space social spaces, including
Yeah.
weddings, including classroom sessions. The news story talks about a teacher that found a functioning whiteboard in Half-Life Alyx and actually recorded a lesson in VR space for his
Wow.
students, presumably. Yeah, that's wild. But you also got weddings taking place in Animal Crossing apparently, and it's so funny because it's like you've heard stories about this sort of thing
Yeah,
for decades when it comes to like WoW and some of these other kind of things and whatnot. But
yeah,
it's
but those are
now
mostly just nerds.
what was that?
It was mostly just nerds. Now it's like
Yeah, now
catching
I
on.
Now
was
it's practical, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Alex was talking earlier about like,
Yeah.
oh, grandma, you can still come to the wedding. You just need to download Apex Legends. Like it's a little wild to imagine, but like the usefulness of these kind of social spaces, because obviously Zoom and other conferencing technologies are going to be huge. Help people stay in touch, FaceTime, and all that kind of stuff. It's generally useful so that you can maintain social relations with people who are not in the same city or neighborhood as you or whatever. But now the usefulness is exploding. I mean, I've got a birthday party for my brother coming up that I plan to play games with him and his friends over Zoom, and it's doable. Shout out to Stacy for being so good with all this stuff that like I I'm learning by proxy how to do a lot of it. And then yesterday we had another birthday party that we Alex and I that we basically did over Smash, over Smash Brothers and Discord, right? So yeah, what do you guys think? I feel like this is like everyone needs to now like become a nerd.
Mm-hmm.
It, just one more tidbit on that. I hate to be the guy that said South Park did it, but South Park did it, right? Way back in the day with World of Warcraft. And that wasn't necessarily, social thing, but that was another way to convey their own media through a different platform, right?
Mhm.
So for anyone not in the know, it was their episode with World of Warcraft, where pretty much about half the episode was inside the game, and then recording overlaid.
And they needed permission
Yeah.
from what's it called, Blizzard,
Blizzard.
to actually do that, and they did. Um, yeah, it's true, they did. But it's kind of fascinating because it's the sort of thing that like I really only read stories about this sort of stuff before. Like I remember there was a WoW story about like a clan that like held a funeral in WoW, and then it got attacked by like a rival clan because of course it did.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. It's like if they can, they will. You know that, right? And
Wow.
then probably my favorite crossing story is there was a guy who built a level in Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 that looked like a church, and if you grind it around the entire church, it was actually his wedding proposal, his proposal to his girlfriend. It's like the name of the gap that you get if you grind it around the whole thing was like, so and so, will you marry me?
Oh, that's pretty cool. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Well,
yeah, I guess maybe we'll see this continue to accelerate the collapsing of meat space and game space.
Yeah. It'll be just singularity.
Well,
Yeah.
since Animal Crossing was the last game to be talked about, do you want to just segue into that?
Yeah, sure. Why not? So I've been playing some more Animal Crossing this last week. I'm enjoying it for much the same reasons that I've mentioned in the past, which is essentially that this is a game that helps slow your brain down, which I really appreciate. I think it's I often like to think of different games as like part of a gaming diet and like what are the functions that different games have, and like some games can serve as kind of like a flow kind of meditation where like you're so into the actions that you're doing that you can achieve a state of flow and you can be very like meditative in that regard and forget your problems and that kind of thing. But that still takes like a certain amount of like energy. Like you need to be like able to perform, right? Like I can do that with even Doom, right, which I'll talk about later. Can achieve that kind of state of flow, but other kinds of like skill-based games when you're really into it. But sometimes like you just had a hard work day and you don't want to like you need to turn your brain off, and Animal Crossing is great for that. So I've been slowly building up my house. I just got a second room, which is exciting because my first room was getting very crowded, of full of like plants and other random things, and I had a bed in the corner, and now I have like a separate bedroom, and I'm like, yay! Now let me start to go decorate that, and like all the ways that this like domestic life shit has been gamified, but like in a way that doesn't feel like a gross mobile version of like let's schedule you and like have you on like a regular like check in on the game every day, pay $2 for this bookcase kind of nonsense. Like this instead feels much more like, because you paid $60 for the game, it's a much more respectful game design where it's like, yeah, check in every day to see what's going on, and oh, you can't see that even though you did everything for getting your next resident, they're going to move in tomorrow. So like it reaches on a daily basis. Like you might have a lot of stuff to do, you might have a little bit of stuff to do in terms of like what's practically useful to actually like grind out, because grinding out to like get money is not terribly compelling, which I think is almost a good thing, because you could basically grind out the little activities that keep always, every time you complete one, you get a new one that get you Nook miles. And then for every 2,000 Nook miles, you can go to a little island to try to grind for resources that you might do to build things and then like sell them to Tom Nook to get money. But that's part of it is a little boring. What's actually fun is like, ooh, a new resident came into town. Ooh, let me dig up the new fossils that are on my island today, that kind of stuff. So it feels this very meditative, slows down your brain kind of experience, which I think is pretty generally useful. And in particular, I'm finding like critical during this whole self-quarantine shit, because sometimes it's just like I notice my brain running a mile a minute and it's like, you know what, let me go play that and like chill my brain out for a little bit. So I think if any of that sounds compelling, like I do recommend this game. I understand like Mikey last week was very much like this game is so slow and boring and that, and I think he's right on some things. Like it's true that 90% of the furniture in this game doesn't functionally do anything. I was a little bit disappointed, for example, that when I got a tool shed, or no, tool shelf, it didn't like hold my tools. It was just decoration, and that's true of like most of the items in the game. So that's kind of meh. There's also like other ways in which it feels a little bit janky, particularly the online. That's worth mentioning. I had a session where I joined a friend's island. I went there, I dropped off like some cherries for them, and then like bought some of their fruit and all this stuff. And then there was a disconnect, and I lost all that progress, and we had to do it again because of the way that the multiplayer is structured. It's just very stupid. Like it's not saving all the time, it's saving on like the edges of your multiplayer experience, and it's just kind of dumb in that way. So like there's all these gotchas that feel very much like um, the opposite of like what Western developers have developed in terms of online presence and how those experiences work, so that they just feel like seamless living worlds. This has a ways to go with regard to that, but I still like it. So yeah, we'll see how that develops over time.
Sounds like a general Nintendo issue about
It's a
getting up to speed on how every other game is optimized already, and
I think it's even more broad. It's Japanese developers because I've heard that one of the knocks against Monster Hunter is that it has a little bit of problems with that. So, like just the networking and that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's it for me on Animal Crossing. Alex, you've talked about it.
Before we
Yeah.
move on, I do have another question. So the way you described Animal Crossing, it seems like you're in it for the long haul. You're not necessarily trying to grind out
You
bells
shouldn't
or,
burn
or
yourself
miles
out
or
on Animal Crossing. It's the most ridiculous idea, right? Like, it's for me, like Stardew Valley was a game where the design and the structure of the game went directly against like the opening message of the game, where it's like, hey, you should chill out and go on a farm. But then the game starts, and I'm just like, I hate the design. It's giving me anxiety. Hate is a strong word, but I didn't like it. It's giving me anxiety, and also I'm going to try to optimize everything because I only have one season. If I don't grow my crops, then I'm going to be like all fucked up. And it was just like, this game is having the opposite of the intended effect. Whereas with Animal Crossing, it's doing a good job through very small things and like the design that are always there, such as how when you mine a rock for resources, you're on a timer, so you do need to try to do it efficiently to get the most resources that you can. But also each time you hit it with the shovel, it pushes you back a little bit. So if you try to mindlessly just like mash A, you're gonna fuck yourself up. So you actually need to like very like to get the maximum 8 things that you can, you actually need to like go like 1, 2, take a step forward, 1, 2. You have to actually be mindful about it, which I think is really good. So yeah, it's definitely the kind of game that in its structure and also the way I'm playing it right now, it's long haul. Mhm. All right, so I think next, let's toss it over to Jeff to talk about Red Dead Redemption 2.
Red Dead Redemption 2. Yep, I picked it up about 2 years ago, but I only started playing it recently, and I will say this: it's a very immersive and well done game. Like the attention to detail is pretty amazing. Like I walked into like what looked like an old plantation house, and like it felt like stepping back in time. Like there were all these small details, like like a painting or a photograph of the family and stuff like that. I've mostly just played the uh, offline version of the game. I tend to always play the offline version and then the online version of the game. And, we continue with the exploits of Arthur Morgan and his gang. Started over from the first Red Dead Redemption. I've never played it, so this is actually my first entrance into this series, and I would say the acting, the the characters, and everything it actually reminds me of a lot of you know Western shows on TV. Actually, it's pretty well done. You get really immersed into the what's going on in the game, and I would say the controls are much easier to use than in other Rockstar games. I believe like they've done a really good job in just everything with the controls,
Mm.
and the controls are pretty intuitive. And most of the controls are on the screen, so you don't have to like fumble around and remember what to click. Yeah, so yeah, definitely makes that a plus.
Yeah,
In my
that's
book.
interesting because you played the shit out of GTA 5. So
Yeah,
uh, that's a top notes from you, top marks.
So
yeah.
you said there was a lot of detail put into Red Dead Redemption 2. What would you say was the most surprising thing to you when you were playing that game?
Yeah. Most surprising thing to me when playing that game um, uh, was probably like how realistic some of it was. Like I was just riding around randomly looking for something, and then I come into this abandoned cabin where everyone is dead, and I found evidence that there was some kind of plague going around, and I was like, "Wow, that's
Hmm.
didn't really
Oh
expect
wow.
that from a game."
That's cool. That reminds me of one of my favorite stories in Fallout 3 is there was this little quest where you come across a radio broadcast of a family like
Mhm.
that's stuck in a sewer, and they're broadcasting asking for help, and it just keeps looping. And if you eventually find it, you like find like their skeletal remains, which I think is hilarious because typically you're like, oh, this must be a quest. I know how video games work. And then there's no quest. You just find like their dead
Yeah,
bodies, and it's just like, oh
yeah,
fuck, they died like 100 years ago.
yeah. There's also a lot of fun moments in Red Dead Redemption that you don't expect. So just riding around in what looks like Georgia or something, or the video game equivalent of Georgia, and I come across a KKK rally. So like I get out my gun and I just massacre them all. But 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 wait, it gets better. You know, somebody witnessed me murdering the KKK members, and it was a black guy. And
Wait,
In the
he got
KKK?
he got
yeah,
upset at you?
no,
Oh,
he wasn't in the KKK.
oh,
He was
okay,
just
okay.
riding by.
Oh,
Like,
okay. That would have been funny.
But hold
yeah,
on, he was
and
upset that you did that.
yeah, he reported me for murder. And then
That's when
he
that's
ended up
when
murdering.
general AI like algorithms
Yeah,
mesh with like real world understanding. It's just like,
yeah,
no,
Wow.
I
yeah.
don't know about
that wouldn't have happened.
that.
So
That's
from the
fucking
future,
funny.
yeah,
Wow.
in the future, I assume video game AI will be
Yeah.
smarter than that. Though still pretty fucking entertaining.
That sounds amazing.
That's crazy. Wow.
My favorite realistic detail in that game, and I actually don't like the game that much for my own reasons, but I might go back and play it with you online just because the immersive stuff, that's all real. That's all very, very much there.
Yeah,
I just think that it was a bit overrated, and everyone was like, "It's the coolest thing ever," and I'm like, "No, it's not my kind of game." But one thing
yeah,
that flipped me out was the animation when you skin an animal in that game is fucking absurd because you actually like gut the thing and like you like roll it off. It's like way faster than anyone can actually do it in real life, but it actually is like skinning the thing, rolling it off, and now you have like the skin that you're holding. It's like holy hell, like this is crazy because you're so used to games being like you kill the thing, now you have like a weird magical glowy thing that signifies the item, go pick it up, and
Yeah.
your guy
Mhm.
will just do some makeshift animation to
Yeah.
just go
At
pick it
best,
up.
the character's doing some makeshift stuff in the corner,
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden you have an item.
in Red Dead, it's like
yeah,
here I am rolling up the thing, and now it's like physically there.
yeah,
Immersion wise, that's crazy. That's
yeah,
so impressive.
yeah. And compared to GTA 5, I think Red Dead Redemption is like much more superior. Like
Mm,
in terms of like the world encounters, like in GTA, they were always like cheesy and like half baked. Like they didn't really make sense. They didn't really mesh with the world too
yeah.
well. But
Mm,
in Red Dead Redemption 2, like the immersion in the world events is amazing. Like I ran across a hunter who was like hunting a bear, and and if you don't help this guy, he gets like completely wrecked by this bear.
Oh,
So like
wow.
I was like, damn, yeah.
nice.
And there was also another guy who had his leg stuck in a bear trap, and like you could yeah, and you can help him out by either giving him whiskey or like medicine. Yeah,
Medicine,
yes.
cocaine.
So I think the world encounters are like really they don't seem like separate from the game. They
Very
seem
emergent.
seamless part of the game, this which makes me think this game should earn top marks in terms of immersion. And I'm a sucker for immersive games,
Nice.
and this one takes the cake.
Nice. I look forward to jumping back into it with you because I was critical for basically I just like the single player story. I was just like, but I'm an asshole. I don't like
Yeah,
playing as an asshole.
I did play the
But
online.
if we just like played online together, I feel like I would just be like, okay,
I
yeah,
did
this is way more
I
fun.
did play the online, and like my only complaint is player behavior. Like
And
it's
you said there's options to like lock people out, right?
yeah, there is. And yeah.
Maybe if
So
there's two of us though, it's like anyone who comes at us will just be like, come on, let's go.
yeah. So
We'll
my
see.
problem with the game is like since this takes place in like a racialized past with like discrimination against black folks and Native Americans, I feel like that gives an excuse to some players to act
Mhm.
racist. It's like, oh, I'm
Uh,
control playing.
They'll do
This
it in
good.
any open world, man. Like,
Yeah.
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 one of my favorite things ever was when Rust was like, "We're just going to give you a random race based on your Steam ID and tough shit," and everyone was just like, "But I don't like being like this way. I feel like I'm at a disadvantage because people keep attacking me," and it's like, it sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so funny,
Oh
and
my
they also
god.
randomly assigned your gender in that game, which again, same exact pattern where people are like, "But people keep annoying me because my avatar's a chick." You're like, it sucks, doesn't it? All right, so Matt, do you want to take it away with one of your games?
Sure. I'll from there. It's funny. I can actually pull it some stuff with the Bulletstorm.
Ah,
It's the game I was looking for it when it came out, but I ended up playing other games. But it came up free on PSN Network this month.
nice.
And was it this month or last month? I don't remember. But anyway, it's a pretty fun game. It's a blast. It's a completely different take on like the Doom type of Gears type of game. So like, cause it's a shooter and like you're some ex-soldier or some shit, and you kind of plow through a whole bunch of other. The story is kind of starts off a little convoluted, but it starts to make sense as you go through. But as you're playing, you're realizing the story is not that big a deal because like they have a whole bunch of crazy stuff going on, and they basically throw a whole bunch of colors and they throw a whole like burnout mindset to it of man, you're gonna make these body parts fly around. Like this is taking something that could be really like dark and making it just like fun and just colorful. And you get like different abilities, like you can throw people around, you can uh shoot them off with grenades and stuff. And I'm like, this game could be so much darker, but because they're just throwing in a whole bunch of curses and colors and points, it just is an entirely different game. And like your character can get drunk while you're playing, so you can be like, "Oh, I found a bottle. All right, now I can't shoot straight."
Shut up.
Do you get like extra points if you kill people when you're drunk?
Yes, you get extra
Nice,
points for
of
killing people
course.
drunk. You get extra points for making plants kill people. You get extra points for throwing people off the side and then shooting them. And it has bullet time, so like it'll slow them down. Like
Mm,
if you grab or kick somebody, and it's
yeah.
like I'm walking by, everything else is moving at the same pace, but the person
Mm.
apparently this person's going slow.
So relative to like I'm thinking of like Devil May Cry, right? Like that has a scoring system, but it's like you can kind of ignore it. How does this game do as far as like making you give a shit about doing like the creative stuff?
They actually make you do give a shit because
Yeah.
you get points, and those points you can use to buy ammo or upgrades.
Mm.
So like after a point, I realized I was like, oh, okay, so I have to use the sniper rifle to get a certain amount of points to get money to buy more stuff, to buy more ammo. So I was like,
Gotcha.
okay, at least I'm good with a sniper rifle. But the sniper rifle is weird in this game. So you shoot a sniper, and then like 3/4 of the way down shot, it the shot has like a redirection. So the shell, another shell comes off, and you can redirect it, and then the enemy will try and run away from your shot.
That's
So you
realistic.
And
have
that's
to
also
snipe it
in bullet time too, right?
in bullet
'Cause-
time. Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome.
In bullet time.
I remember I actually played the game when it was out on Xbox 360 way back
Mhm.
when. I'm not sure if there's any differences to this release,
Slight
but
graphics boost is about it.
okay, well,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I really did enjoy the game way back when. I frankly don't remember the story whatsoever,
Yeah.
but like one of your main tools is like this grappling, like electrical grappling thing that's
Mm-hmm.
attached to your arm that you can basically shoot at somebody and pull them back. And when you pull them back, they go into bullet time. And from there, you can shoot them or kick them. You can literally
Yeah.
like Sparta kick them into a spiky cactus, for example.
Nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can do like crazy combos like that. You can grapple like explosive barrels and throw that into people. let's see what else. Like, I think there's also at some point you control like some kind of giant
Oh yeah, the giant
beast.
mech thing that was
Yeah,
some T-Rex with lasers or some shit. It was crazy.
yeah. So,
It was
so
just
Wow.
th-
over the top.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. It's a
Safe
little
to
more
say.
fast paced than
Yeah.
like other first person shooters. Not. It's probably on par with like Doom or what's the other one I'm thinking of? Like Duke Nukem.
Yeah.
Those types of games got
It
on
it,
par.
it's idealistic mindset is similar to Duke Nukem. Like you're drinking, you shooting. It's not taking anything type of seriously. Um, it's a nice play on it and a fresh take on it, considering, especially when it came out. Yeah, because there was a lot of games like that at the time,
That's true.
and I like that you can kind of just throw enemies out of cover, so you don't have to ever get like frustrated. You know how sometimes like if you play Gears and stuff, there'll be times where it's like, this is getting annoying because you'll start having waves of enemies coming in and they're all like hidden in cover and they're not coming out.
Mm.
So now you can just pull them out and throw them at somebody else. Like I don't worry about this anymore.
That's funny. Nice.
But it reminds me of a lot of other games like I remember I played in the game Vanquish. It reminds me like of all that stripped down, and then they just take it less serious.
Okay. Nice. I feel like I have to talk about Doom now.
Yeah,
Oh, it's a good segue. Sure.
Yeah. Doom Eternal. Doom Eternal is fucking good. Like first I need to start with the bad because this is just a funny story. So I'm starting Doom Eternal. Stacy's watching me. I'm on a call with Jeff. He's watching too, doing a share play, and I'm like, yeah, Doom, and the music is starting to kick in, and it says like press X, and I'm ready to press X, and I press X, and it takes me to a fucking login screen, and I was like, I hate you so much. Like, there's no better way to just take the wind out of my sails and just be like, no, you don't get to play Doom yet. You need a Bethesda account. I was just like, you
Yeah.
fucking assholes. And then like a few things were terrible about this. The first is if you're gonna create a new account, it doesn't just key off of your like PSN. You need to create a password, which is dumb. And then it turned out that I had already had a Bethesda account. So when I tried to create one, it was like, no, you have one. And I was like, okay, fine. I brought up my password manager because I am that person who has a password manager. And I typed in that password because like I didn't even remember having a Bethesda account. But fortunately, my password manager had my back. And then I signed in and okay, now I can play the fucking game. So that's infuriating. That is absolutely like Bethesda sticking their hands in the fucking pot of the one good developer they have left, I feel like, and just shitting that on that initial experience, which is just so annoying. But pretty much
To that
everything
end,
since then.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go
To
ahead.
that end, is it online only? Like, do you have to be logged on in
I
order to
don't
play?
think you have to be on like if you need to be logged, that's so stupid. I haven't like unplugged the cable to check, but there's no good reason that you would need to be online. The game should be completely functional offline. The only thing that you'd miss out on is maybe it needs to check in with the server to get you the season rewards because this game does have that sort of structure behind it, which is not all bad. I just hate the fact that like that's the first thing that happens when you press X is like create an
Yeah.
account. It's so stupid. I want to shoot demons. Like, and fortunately, after that moment, it's pretty much gold. Like, the intro of the game starts, and it's this beautiful collage of like clips of people on Earth freaking the fuck out, and news broadcasts talking about like how Earth has been invaded by demons, and street prophets who are saying we will be saved by the one who has the mark of the beast as the Doomslayer picks up a helmet that has a little mark on it, and then he's like getting ready for all this, and then the last thing, the last little clip that you hear is like a broadcast of someone going like, someone please save us, and then like close up on the Doomslayer cocking his shotgun. Cue the music, cue the title card. let's go kill some fucking demons. It immediately transitions into, you already have a shotgun, there's some demons, go kill them. Like it's doesn't try to tutorialize the shit out of that. Just a brief little cutscene, super punchy, go for it. First level has you tracking down one of the 3 hell priests that seem to be the crux of the game. Is we got to track these guys down and kill them all. They're key to the demonic invasion of Earth. And then pretty early on, you're also like starting to get these breadcrumbs of like, who is the Doomslayer? And the first game dances around it a little bit, toys with it a little bit. You know from the Doom 2016 that the Doomslayer was found in a sarcophagus on the Hell Plane, was brought back to Mars, and was resurrected when everything started going to shit as a sort of last-ditch effort by, I forget, the Samuel Hayden, the cyborg CEO of UAC, to like bring you back. And then this game, we're starting to get some real answers pretty early on in the game about like, oh, okay, this is who the Doomslayer is, and here's some backstory.
Doesn't this shit hit the fan in like every Doom game?
I mean, yeah, it's like before you even start the game, shit has hit the fan. That's why you're needed. Go kill demons.
Yeah.
The combat in this game is so fucking good. Like 2016 was already pretty fantastic,
Yeah.
but something that you could definitely say about 2016 Doom is that locomotion was important in that game, and platforming was like important, but it was slow, a little bit slow, a little bit sluggish. Yeah. And that wasn't the worst thing in the world. But in Doom Eternal, they've added some things in, and they've changed up their level design to be very vertical, and it's a ridiculous, beautiful battle arena ballet of movement and gunplay now. Like, it's ridiculous. So they've added in a dash button, so you have up to 2 dashes on a cooldown. It's a fairly quick cooldown, but it's enough to make it so that if you just mash it, you're gonna miss it when you need it. You can also do dashes in mid-air, up to 2 again, before the cooldown. You have to be on the ground for the cooldown to happen. You also are able to grab onto like monkey bars. Think of it that way, like little poles, and then you can like swing, and that'll get you height. You can climb walls of a particular kind where you press like the melee attack, and now you're on the wall. You can climb it, you turn around, and then you can jump from there onto other things. It really opens up the platforming in the game, and there are like genuine platforming challenges throughout the levels that are not super hard for someone like myself who has played Mirror's Edge and enjoys platforming quite a bit. So even first person platforming, like I can handle that, but it's definitely not trivial. And then like how that ends up mashing together with combat is fantastic. Like, you have your usual enemy types, and they've been remixed a little bit here and there. You have more explicit short-term goals, I feel like, with the monster designs, where they have weak points that you can attack in order to remove from their arsenal a few of their more dangerous attacks. So a good example of that is the arachnotron thingamajig. It has this like cannon on its as like a tail, and long range, that thing is gonna fuck up your day. So you can actually snipe that thing off with one well-placed heavy rifle zoomed in shot, and boom, it doesn't have the tail anymore. It still has like these grenades that it can throw at you, and will melee the fuck out of you if you let it get close, but you don't have to worry about that anymore. So little things like that with the enemies make it so that you have these short-term goals of like, okay, now I've disarmed them, now I don't have to panic about them anymore. I can move around the arena a bit more without like having so much damage coming in on me. And then you also have options, better options to basically farm enemies for resources. So the glory kills in the first game is how you farmed health off of an enemy. Now you're also able to use a flame belch, a little flamethrower, that sets enemies on fire and inexplicably drops armor, because whatever, who cares? And if you kill the enemy, it drops even more armor. So that's a way that you can farm armor. And then the chainsaw, which was in the first game, and you'd use it to farm ammo when you needed to, has been made a lot more accessible, a lot more of a key part of the game, because in particular, you regenerate one of the 3 ticks of gas that you need to use the chainsaw over time, so that you kind of always have it as an option where, like, if you really, really, really need the plasma rifle for this encounter and you just ran out of ammo, you can kind of look around the arena, try to find like a stupid zombie or something, go chainsaw the shit out of it. Now you have plasma rifle ammo again. Let's go. Let's do business. And so, like, it's just the combat chess is so damn good. The last thing I'll say on Doom is I like the difficulties that they have set up. I'm playing on the second to hardest. I don't remember what it's called. I think it's like Hurt Me Plenty or something. The names are silly. But
Ultraviolet.
they also Ultraviolence is the very, very hardest. Yeah, that's right. Oh no, no, wait. Oh no, no. Yeah, I'm playing on. Am I playing on Ultraviolence? Oh, okay. Stacy's saying yes. So I'm playing on Ultraviolence, and there's one that's even harder than that, which might be Nightmare. But in any case, and then they also have some systems that I look forward to after I maybe beat the game for replayability. They really look like they've honed in on replayability in this game for a few key reasons. One huge one is they have a mode called Extra Lives mode, where you start the game with 3 extra lives, and when you run out of lives, it is game over. Progress only saves between missions, I think. And so this is like a way of having the classic Doom experience of like, here's your lives, and when you lose your lives, it's game over. So very cool for replayability purposes. The other things that they do for replayability that I really like is there's a cheat code mode, or system rather, where you can find cheat codes throughout levels as one of the types of secrets. And then once you've already beaten a level, you can replay that level with cheat codes on and just try to find all the secrets, all the codex entries, all the little power-up thingies that you need because you missed them and now you're underpowered for the level that you're stuck on, right? That's really cool options to have around. And then the final thing is toward the end of a level, it actually activates fast travel in that level. So even on your first playthrough of a level, when you reach almost the end, you can actually bring up the map, start fast traveling around the whole level if you want to be completionist on that first run and just try to get everything. So little things like that that they've thought through from a design perspective are just super great, welcome additions to the game. And then of course the core combat is just insane. It's so good.
Mhm.
So that's it for Doom Eternal. Like, just fight demons. It's so much fun. Like,
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. Even if you're getting
actually, one last thing. Sorry to interrupt, Jeff. They
okay.
have also expanded on the tongue-in-cheek parts of the first game in ways that I like. So to give you a small taste of that, while you're on Earth and everything is hell and brimfire around you, you will find in a bombed out department store a little hologram that from the UAC, which is essentially a cult, and they basically go, look around and bask in what we have built, and it's just like, I see what you did there. That is so good.
That's pretty
And they
cheeky. I
keep
like it.
doing it. They keep doing it. It's so funny. Like, one of my favorite lines is, your suffering is the fuel that will like bring upon the next, like, the better life or something like that, which is just such a great way of like being ridiculous within the story, but also kind of like lampooning religion in general, and this whole like suffering is good. It's just like, yeah, okay, look at what it looks like. And now I'm done. Sorry, Jeff.
I, I will say this, like, I agree that Doom Eternal is a lot of fun. Like, even if it was secondhand fun I was getting, it was still a lot of fun. So
Nice. I think you said this is the kind of game I can watch but never play because it'll give me nightmares.
yeah.
Actually,
uh,
on that note, I know this isn't a particular topic that we had in mind, but I found that streaming my own games kind of and watching other people play has become a not a significant part of my life, but like way more than it used to prior to the coronavirus and stuff, because
mm,
now it kind of brings back the feeling of, hey, I was in your house and
yeah,
right, we were
back to high
playing.
school, man.
Yeah. So like we were playing games and I was watching you and we're taking turns and whatever, and now it's like that, watching somebody else play or even streaming my own game kind of brings me back to that nostalgic feeling of we
Hmm.
were in the same place playing the same game. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and on that vein, like we should shout out the various features on various platforms for like share play. PS4 has like a share play where I can literally give my controller to you and you're just streaming it like if it was any other streaming service or whatever. I'm pretty sure Steam has similar kind of features as
It
well.
does.
I don't know. Yeah, okay, cool. I haven't played with them, so I don't know how good they are, but that's cool that they have them as well. So like there's options for people to basically recreate that couch co-op experience from back in the day, which is really cool. I actually jumped into training mode in Fantasy Strike with Jeff for a little bit by basically doing that like share controller thing, so that like I could teach him a little bit of like, look, here's the frame data, and like I'm gonna keep spamming this attack, figure out how to counter it, that kind of stuff. And that's a particular case where that game doesn't have that feature online, but it does have it local, and you could do it through the share play, which is pretty cool.
Very cool.
All right, so who's up next? Who wants to take the baton?
Yeah, I'll take the baton.
Take the baton.
Yeah,
What are you
so
telling us about, Jeff?
I'll segue off of the streaming thing. Yeah, so the game I'm covering is chess, and surprisingly, chess is featured a lot on Twitch. Like you have
That's true.
you
That's
have
true.
people like just playing their game and like commenting on the moves they're making, their analysis of the game, and I would say chess, which is I think should be considered the original RTS because you got your army, you got your enemy's army, you have to strategize, not
It's
based
only
on
RTS when you have the timer, though.
Yeah.
yeah. So you gotta strategize, not you have to further your own plans, but you also have to look at the enemy's plans too. Like that's how you win by looking at your plans and your enemy's plans and finding a strategy to win. Yeah. So chess is like a really old game. Like it's thousands of years old. But now with the internet and with Twitch, it has definitely become more of an e-sport.
Mm,
Definitely, because I see like on Twitch, there's a bunch of tournaments like real live like world championships, and everything's like streamed. And the thing about chess as a esport is that it's very much accessible. All you really have to know are just how the pieces move, and you so you can watch a game that's being played right now, and you could also have like a computer analyzing the moves of the game, so you can
mm.
actually keep up like in terms of a score, like so that's kind of like football, like you have a score and the enemy has a
Right. What's
score.
the term for that? Like the plus minus on like which pieces you've lost? Is there a term for that?
Um, I don't think so. I think it's just computer analysis,
Yeah.
basically.
Gotcha.
So the internet has really changed the way chess has been played. Like it's a completely new spin on the game. I mean, it's still the same old game with the same old rules and stuff, but it's definitely different.
Yeah. And one thing that's made possible through technology is your unique way of playing chess, Jeff, which I want you to talk a little bit more about. How many chess games do you have going on right now, this instant?
Right now, I have 76 games going.
Holy wow.
Yeah, this is not
Whoa.
like live chess. You have like 1 to 3 days to think about one move, but still it adds up. Like every day I have to make like 20 moves so I don't lose.
You're
Yeah.
you're that you're like that image that of like the dude in a park who's like going from chess table to chess table and just like playing
Yeah, yeah,
everyone.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
but
Wow.
yeah. But with the coronavirus, it's digital.
Yeah. That's everyone's. That's gonna be their version of chess now.
Yeah, yeah. So I feel like John Wick, like taking all these enemies and winning. Well, to be
Nice.
fair, most of these opponents I have are like the enemies in John Wick. They're just cannon fodder.
Oh.
No offense.
Well,
No offense.
that's how you get your ranking up, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Are you
no.
are you playing on one particular platform or
Oh,
various?
I'm playing on my phone.
Mm.
Chess.com. They have their their app on the phone. And
Mm.
it's a pretty decent app, but sometimes when it goes haywire, it reminds you of Bethesda, honestly. Yeah, so
Bugs are not limited to huge open worlds.
yeah,
No.
I do have a story of instant karma in a chess tournament.
Okay.
So I was fucking around with the app, and I accidentally entered like a live chess tournament, which was like 10 p.m. and the chess tournament lasts 4 hours, and I'm like, shit. So I was forced. Due to the platform glitching out, I had to play like all 4 games. So and I should add that I was stoned out of my mind as well. And chess and being stoned don't go together well. And
I'm
somehow,
sure.
through a miracle, I won the first 2 games and I lost the third game. By
Okay.
the fourth game, I was completely like drained. So
Uh,
I was asking my opponent to be nice enough to offer me a draw. Like I kind of explained the situation to him, and and then he says, "No, fuck you, resign." But then I was like, "Okay, okay," and the next second the server crashes, and
oh
Nah.
wow.
yeah, before
That's
that
funny.
happened, he said like, "I need that point." And then the
Uh,
server crashes,
and
and none of us get that point.
Wow.
that's pretty funny. Oh
Did
Yeah,
man.
that ruin the whole? I'm assuming that ruined the whole tournament. For
yeah,
everybody.
it did. It did.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
but
man. I feel like that's a whole subtopic is like what games have you played while like not sober and just
yeah,
been like, I'm beating you
yeah,
while I'm
and
wasted.
yeah, and playing like a RTS or a chess game when stoned does not work because
Oh
like
man, I'm bad at them in the first place. I can't
Noted.
imagine.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Neat.
So it's definitely interesting how technology has changed games that have been played for literally thousands of years.
Hmm.
It's amazing what technology can do.
Yeah, I don't think you were able to pull off 76 simultaneous games before the phone.
Yeah,
I don't think
no,
anyone was.
no,
Maybe some
yeah,
rich asshole would have like entire rooms in their house where
Yeah.
they would just invite people in or something. I could see someone doing
yeah.
that. Nice, nice, nice. All right. Who's next? Who's next? Are we
How about
throwing
I
it over
go?
to? Okay, go
How
ahead.
about I go? Because it's a good segue into Carcassonne, which is another
Mm.
board game, not quite thousands of years old, but more recent modern times. And the reason I wanted to talk about it is another, Carcassonne being a board game. We, my family and I played it. It's one of our favorites. It has like a dozen different expansions to it, and we normally play it during our like weekly get-togethers. My father-in-law comes over and we have a board game night. Well, we can't do that now, can we?
No.
But we can
Yes, you
because of the
can.
internet. Yeah.
Yay, internet.
So we actually found a free version that we can play online. You can it's up to like 6 people, 5 or 6 people. You can select any of those expansions that we have, and about a few others that we don't. There's house rules that you can add. Everything was programmed by the person who made the online version of the game. But to describe Carcassonne, it's a tile laying game for up to 5 or 6 players, where you have these set tiles from these different expansions, including the base game. You shuffle them up, you take one at random, and then you place it on the board. But the trick is you have to place it in such a way that it makes sense on the board. So if there's a road piece laid down and you picked up a piece that's doesn't have a road, you can't place it there. You have to place it where a road is connected to a road, or a city is connected to a city, or the field is connected to a field. And the reason I love it so much is pretty much the reason why I love roguelike games is it's different every single time. So we've never had any game that was similar to any other game we've played
Mm.
because the layout's different. The choices you make are, obviously impacted by the board, but also the fact that certain layouts there's only a certain amount of pieces that can fit into one specific way. So it's a four-sided piece, and if you have a empty space on the board that is surrounded on all four sides, there's probably a limited number of pieces that can fit in there. Right. So if you have the way that you score, you place your meeples, your little people, onto the board to basically reserve that spot. So if I reserved a road, nobody else can place their piece on that road unless they place it somewhere else that eventually gets connected to that same road. So for example, I have my guy on a road, there's an empty space on the next tile, and then the very next tile, Anne puts her piece down trying to get in on my main road. And roads are worth a point, cities are worth 2 points per tile, and you're trying to balance out placing your pieces in different structures to gain, to basically, since you're not guaranteed any kind of piece taken out of the hat, that you want to diversify your structures.
So you need resources to play a piece?
You do not. All the pieces are shoved into a hat or bag, and then you pick one at random. So you don't need any resources to play it. Your only resource is the number of meeples that you have, because you have like six these meeple figurines that you can place on the board to reserve, and if you don't have any left, you can't place a piece down.
So
the way that you get them back,
like the tiles in your hand,
you don't have anything in your hand. Your hand is your meeples that you can place on the board to reserve a spot.
Oh, so you randomly get the tiles to play.
Yep. So I have nothing, like when we're starting the game, or even when we're playing throughout the game, the only resource I have is the meeples. All of the tiles are placed into a bag and is a shared thing that you pick out at random every turn. So if Xavi, you and I are playing, right, I pick out a piece, I place it on the board, I can put my meeple down to reserve a structure, and then I pass it on to you, you do the same. You take a random piece out of the hat, place it on the board in a way that makes sense, and then you can put your piece to reserve it. So, yeah, and like there's a lot of strategy going into this game. Like you can, the way that my father-in-law likes to play is to build these huge elaborate cities where he is trying to, if for example I try to hone in on his city by like placing a piece to the side to try to get my guy in, he'll start to do the same, and it'll become like almost like a bidding war for this one huge city that could end up being like the points that win the game. Right. So it's a lot of fun. It's so different every single time you play it that I always recommend Carcassonne.
Nice. I don't believe I've ever played it.
Yeah, if you're willing to give it a try, the particular website is J Cloister Zone. So Cloister spelled Cloister.
Try to link it in the doc, and then maybe we can put it into the episode notes.
Absolutely.
Sweet. All right, so Matt, I think you're up next. What do you want to chat about next?
All right, so next, I think I will go. Runner kind of goes back into the other topics. I'm going to go back to I'm going to go to Lara Croft Go. That's what I'm going to talk about.
All right.
That's been out for a little while, but I haven't played it much. I had it. You have games like in your Steam folder or whatever. You just haven't.
No, I played everything in my library. I don't know what you're talking about.
But yeah, no, I finally downloaded it and started playing it, and it's a fun game. I've played most of the Lara Croft games throughout my life. I played it or I watched my sister or somebody else play it, but nice. I have all of them. So it's like, but this one is like it has a strategy to mostly to it. It's not so much just platformer, leveling, shooting. It's like going through mazes. It's really what it is. So like you have a pace to it. So the way it's spread out is you move Laura Croft through different little segments, and you'll have other creatures that are moving at pace with you. So
Yeah,
it's
so it's
not
almost
that
like turn-based.
it is turn based.
Yeah.
It actually is turn based because I have to time out exactly how I'm moving according to other things on the board. So, say if there's a spider will consistently move with you. So it'll move um, not according to what you're doing. It'll just start moving, and it'll move as you move. So if you make one move, it'll move. Make another move, it'll move, and you have to time exactly how you're going to take the spider out. If
Hmm.
it's like a large lizard, it'll move if it sees you. So like if you're close to it, it'll move. If it sees you, if it's like a snake, if you're right in front of it, it'll attack you. And that's mostly how the game goes. Like you'll run into other creatures or traps that will activate as you move progress through the game. And it's designed in level top down levels. So like you'll have a level and you have like almost like a game board, like in the same the old school games like you guys were just talking about. That's why I decided to use that one for segue. It's almost like a game board where you'll move through points, and then other things will be going on as you move. It's completely really turn based. You don't really select weapons like that. The way it works is she always has her guns, and you have to reposition yourself according to the creature you're trying to get rid of. And you don't necessarily have to get rid of all of them. Sometimes if you try and go out of your way to get rid of a creature, it actually throws off the game and you can't progress.
Question: what kind of creatures are they?
Well, of course, in this one, she's in the jungle, so there's snakes, spiders, lizards. As far as I've gotten, it's been a repeat of those,
No
and other types
deranged,
of traps.
no deranged cult members.
Not yet. No range cult members yet.
This one won't give you. This one won't give you nightmare fuel.
But
And
you
is
can
this
pick
a
up.
mobile game?
I
It is
not sure.
actually
It
out
should
on
be. It
mobile.
is. Yeah. It is
Like
mobile.
the whole Go
It seems like it should
series,
be a
Lara
mobile game.
Croft Go, Hitman Go.
Yeah, Hitman Go I
Um,
was looking into also. I haven't played it yet though.
yeah, they've come out on like all the platforms, and I think they
Oh,
might have
okay.
come out first on mobile platforms.
Yeah, it would make sense because it seems like you could just swipe.
Yeah, exactly. Just with swipes, you can play the whole thing.
Yeah, pretty much. It's not like a targeted stuff or anything. It's really just directional.
Hmm.
Um, also you can set traps to get other creatures and stuff. You can set traps to open up stuff. Um, and the boss battle is even the same way. It's not even like where it's you versus the creature. It's really you versus yourself trying to figure out how you're gonna beat this.
Yeah, it's very much like a puzzler. Is my
Yeah,
I would think of it more as like a puzzle game than anything else.
and it goes straight down to the base actually of Lara Croft of figuring out puzzles,
I
and even down
remember.
to like the whole traps to figure out how to get to the next level. Some levels don't have any creatures, and it's
Mhm.
really just figuring out how you're gonna progress through it.
I remember when this one came out. I don't know if any of the, because it came out I think a good while ago, and I don't think that
Yeah,
any. I'm not sure, but I think I remember hearing like the new trilogy hadn't quite come out yet, or maybe it was only the first one, and people were
it's in
saying
between.
like this actually feels like the most Lara Crofty experience that
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of out there. The later mainline Tomb Raider games got a little silly with the action and the mythology, um, and like the new trilogy is overall pretty good.
Yeah,
But like that, this is really about that like tomb raiding in a literal
mm-hmm.
sense kind of experience of slowly progressing through a tomb and figuring out puzzles and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice, nice, nice. All right, so next up, what have we got? Let's all right. I'll be fast. I'll be quick. I promise. I'm only gonna talk about the Division 2 a little bit.
Talk a
Um
little bit.
ongoing on my ongoing sit rep with Division 2. Game's still good. Uh, but more concretely, I've been. It's worth touching on because they're with this expansion. A week after the expansion came out, they started rolling out the seasons, where every week they're doing new stuff. So I wanted to touch on those a little bit. So the structure of it is every week something new unlocks. The first week of season one unlocked the first manhunt. The whole structure of season one revolves around this rogue division cell that you're trying to take out, which has a head honcho and 4 sub targets, much like the actual hunt for Aaron Keener. Week one unlocked. His name was Neptune, and taking out all of the little objectives to get up to him was pretty fun. It gives you an excuse to a more directed story kind of centric excuse to do the usual gameplay activities. I played through it using the global difficulty at challenging difficulty. After I finished him, I like rolled it back to hard difficulty because challenging is pretty heavy. I'm pretty sure like once I have a job again and like have normal responsibilities again, challenging is going to be like not my comfort level. So I'm playing on hard mostly now, but but it was very fun to go through the typical experiences of attacking control points, doing bounties, and doing replaying some of the missions of the game. On the challenging difficulty, as well as for this story purpose, because after you complete each of the little objectives leading up to actually taking on Neptune, you get audio logs in the classic vein of the game. The way that they tell their story is often through these audio logs, and you learn about Neptune before you take him out. And much like with much of the expansion and what they've been doing, they're really trying to make you understand these people that are labeled as bad guys. One of my favorite um, audio logs in the expansion, not for Neptune, but talks about has one of the characters. I think it was Javier Kajika who is talking to someone and is basically saying like, just because Isaac, the AI that kind of runs the Shade network, decided that I'm rogue, like doesn't mean I'm a bad guy, like that kind of thing. And they're doing questionable things, no question about that. But it really is trying to make you like think and understand like what is different about you versus them, right? Like one of my actually there's another one with him where it's back in the timeline of the first division game, and he's stuck in a dark zone, and he wants JTF reinforcements, and they don't give them to him, and he goes, okay, let me understand this correctly, and he's very angry about this. He goes, if I uh, if I stay here and try to fight for these people, I'm gonna die, and if I retreat because the JTF just fucked me, then I'm gonna be marked as a rogue agent. Okay, so it does a good job of like doing that kind of thing. So with Neptune, you take him out, you get the audio logs. It's a good way to get a drip feed of content. I like this structure. Week 2 was league events where you do certain activities, but they're gonna incentivize you for league events to try to do them as quickly as possible and as high a difficulty as possible to get points. So that's actually like a very kind of competitive kind of thing. The bad side of that is that if you try to do matchmaking for a mission that happens to be going on during a league, you get what I consider the most jarring, like, co-op experience that I don't like, where everyone is trying to speed through this level as quickly as possible, and they're doing things tactically that kind of make sense from a brute force perspective, but are very boring, such as a group storming the spawn point of all the enemies and just trying to murder the shit out of them as they're coming out, and it just feels so stupid, and it's like I don't enjoy this. But they are kind of interesting as far as just trying to keep your time down if you're into that competitive thing. That's not exactly how I play, though. The third week, which is the one that we just are in right now, they unlock the polarity event, and this is crazy. It literally affects everything if you opt into it, where every single enemy in the world has a polarity, positive or negative, and so do you, and you do extra damage when you attack someone who has the same polarity, and you don't do very much damage when you attack someone who has a negative polarity. And when you kill someone with the same polarity, you get a stack to like your damage, I think, which will keep increasing, so you start steamrolling people. But if you have a stack and you attack someone who has the opposite polarity, you get shocked, which can really fuck you up. And on higher difficulties, if you're like out in the open and you're shocked, like you're gonna get slaughtered very quickly. And you can change an enemy's polarity by meleeing them, and you can change your polarity by changing weapons or reloading. So it just completely layers onto every single bit of this tactical decision making that you've been making already in the game, and just makes it so much more bonkers. The next like global event that they have planned sounds like it's like zombie themed, where enemies are able to reanimate for no, like these are goofy things. They're not in universe explanation. They're not canon. It's just fucking bonkers shit to like mess with the gameplay that you have to opt into. And it's really fun. So Division 2 continues to be fun. I look forward to the next Manhunt, which is going to unlock in a few days, and starting to go through it all over again. It feels like they figured out how to have a certain long-term appeal with these seasons that actually kind of keys into the different types of players. You have the competitive players where they're just trying to storm through a level. I don't like doing that very much. You have the story beats and the actual manhunts and the audio logs that will drop. That's more for like someone like me. And then you also have someone who just likes the gameplay and has like this crazy arcadey remix in these global events, which you opt into. And I also kind of dig that stuff too. So we'll see how it continues. And now I'm done.
I like your description of the polarity event. That's really cool. They've
Yeah.
added a very cool strategic thing to it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you're just like doing this firefight on a hard difficulty and you're trying to take cover and all this, and you're like, wait, but which gun do I need to? I need to do the polarity right. It's just another thing to think about that can absolutely overwhelm you, but it's pretty fun.
And I assume you can actually tell what kind of polarity somebody is without initially firing on them, right?
Yeah. When you the usual enemy nameplates that you see, which give away info about their veterancy, will also have their polarity there, and
Sure.
what type of class they are is a normal thing that is on their nameplate. So yeah. All right, who's going next?
Matt, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'll go next. So I was going to talk about one topic, but I changed it because I was like, I don't know how much to say about that game right now. So throw that out. I'll probably bring it up another time. But I have been playing, not Borderlands 3. I have it, but I haven't downloaded it yet because of the whole, slow internet right now. Because it's mainly because every time I want to download it, it's at prime times. So it's like everybody's playing, and I'm like, I don't feel like downloading it. But I have been playing Tales of the Borderlands because I was wanting to play that a while ago when it originally came out, but I never got a chance to. So when I was like, all right, let me get it set up now. And it's annoying how like it's not on anything anymore. Like you can't easily go and get the game. Luckily, I was able to get it, but
Yeah, I
because
guess that was because of the fallout of I forgot
Telltale.
the studio name. Yeah, Telltale.
Telltale, yeah. I miss them. They have a lot of nice games. They're really like relaxing, similar to like the Animal Crossing. It's not like a shooter or some horror game.
Yep.
It's got a bunch of fun aspects to it. It's hilarious and it's makes you think.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember the first types of games like that were like was it Wirehead or something like that? Yeah, for like the Sega, those old types of games like that.
Deep cuts.
But Tales of the Borderlands is a like fun retelling of that world, sort of speak. It's kind of in between. I think it's in between two. Yeah, it's because it's already had the one. It's like in between two and the newest one. And I like how it takes the world and puts you in it as a regular Joe. It's not like you're some superpowered badass.
Yeah, you're like an employee, right?
Yeah, you're a random employee of Hyperion, which is like the evil corporation.
It's Tesla.
That's running everything behind the scenes. Or one of them, because they do have other corporations that exist. It's funny how like you have the complete nothing crazy people on this planet Pandora, and you have like these business executives that are afraid to cut somebody.
Tales from the Borderlands, isn't that like an interactive kind of movie kind of thing?
Yeah, it's this interactive movie. It's
Yeah.
selection.
I've played it before, and I've really enjoyed the references to like previous Borderlands games, and just references to like general nerdy stuff like Power Rangers or something.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's a very nice take on that series, and then it really it's fresh. So like you come in and you're like just some random guy who doesn't have any type of power.
Yeah.
no
Yes.
special weapons, and you start with like a stun baton. So
And
you're
then
on
it's
this
just like,
planet.
go to Pandora.
Go to Pandora, where they're like
Everything will be fine.
monsters and crazy people, and people with like superpowers. And then, of course, you do come into contact with like previous main characters who like are doing some crazy acrobatic shit, blowing shit up, and you're like, just have a stun baton.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
is the interactive part like quick time events, or is it
It's
just
a variety of those things. So like there are parts where you actually do walk around and you have to investigate stuff, and you talk to different people. And there are parts where like it's quick time where you have to make quick decisions, like sometimes 3 or 4 decisions. Yeah, options you have. You can scan stuff. If you didn't scan stuff, you miss something. So like your character has like a cybernetic eye, so you can scan things ahead of time before you make a decision. There are points where you have to shoot, but it's more of a, oh man, shoot this person really quick, or shoot that thing, or shoot that thing. What are you gonna do? And you have to aim and then shoot it, and then it decides what's gonna happen from there. The
Gotcha.
general story takes a direction, but you can, just like the Telltale series for The Walking Dead, people will remember stuff. So
Mhm.
you can do something and like so and so will remember that because you screwed them over.
yeah.
It's really funny, the way that works. So like I haven't had any replay yet, but it gives it definitely replayability, where you can just replay a chapter and see how it'll play out. So
Yeah.
like someone will help you or someone will survive, because
Mhm.
there's definitely points where like a character might not have made it had you told them something,
Mhm.
because if you play Borderlands, things go up in flames very quickly.
Yeah.
Did you play through the whole thing?
Oh no, I just played through the first chapter this far. I was I think it's 3 or 4 different segments.
Okay.
But the first segment is basically you first get down to the planet. It tells us the backstory as to how and why you're on the planet, why some pencil pushers deciding to go after a vault key. You run into some new characters that, of course, are throughout the rest of the game. You get a loader, which is the funny part. So you start and your character just got a stun gun, doesn't have anything, and you have all these people with like huge rocket launchers and grenade launchers and guns, and you get put in a firefight with all these psychos, and you have access, like in previous games you have the Handsome Jack and people can call down loaders and stuff. So since you're a Hyperion employee, you're able to hack and get a loader to come down and help you, and it starts shooting everybody up. And that's where the creative uh, strategy comes into play. There, you can actually load the loader with different types of ammo,
Mm.
and it'll decide what's going to happen to this first part of the town and whether you can use it later on, because you can. And the loader starts getting attacked and it's all like almost falling apart. It's like, do you want it to blow up the loader, or you can want it to go off? And if you send it off, it might help you out later. If you blow it up now, you might get some part from it or something like that. And
Mm.
it's an interesting way of forward thinking for a game, because you don't have like all the tools at hand at one time, given time. So you have to really think, all right, is this thing going to help me, or is this person going to be able to help me later on? Someone could jump out and surprise you, and it's like you can punch them in the face, or you can be like, yo, don't do that.
Nice. Yeah, that's what I always enjoy about those kind of storytelling games. Is there's not something that games typically a mindset the games typically put you into. There's exceptions like Mass Effect or Witcher or something
Yeah.
like that, but usually you're so focused on the minutia of combat or just the mechanics that you're not put into this like role playing mindset of like, ooh, do I trust this guy? Is he going to be an ally or is he going to be a pain in the ass? That kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Nice,
Usually they
nice.
kind of tell the story for you. It's like, just shoot this thing or
Mm-hmm.
climb this thing. But
Mm-hmm.
this, you kind of direct the story slightly.
Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep.
And definitely not all interactive games are actually fun to play. Well, some of them are fun to play. but some like Detroit, I didn't really have too much fun playing them. But
Mm.
Tales from the Borderlands is definitely one of the best ones.
Yeah, Detroit's
Yeah.
a tricky one because it's like production values wise amazing,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but like actual story structure and storytelling, it's a little bit of a dud. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Specifically, Tales of the Borderlands or the Tales
no,
games in general?
Detroit,
Oh, no.
Detroit.
Oh,
It's
Detroit.
Detroit.
a
Sorry,
different kind
Mhm.
of
It comes
story.
down to
sorry,
the
I missed
writing,
that.
honestly.
It
'cause
does,
that's
exactly. It's so key in these games, and honestly, it can often expose how bad game writing can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been some games where it's
There's
like,
a lot of game developers out there who are like, I'm a genius, I'm a creative genius, I'm gonna write my own thing. And then it's just like, all right, man.
And you guys said at the beginning of talking about this game that it's not available anymore or
it's
hard to find.
really hard to get. Like other Telltale games you can find, but I don't know for what reason.
Mm.
Um, it's like really, really hard to get this
Wait,
game now.
didn't the
It's
developer go bankrupt or something?
They did.
that's part of it is I'm sure they had like a
Did.
complication licensing arrangement with
It's probably complicated
2K.
licensing.
And but the thing is, Telltale's back now, kind of. I'm sure it's like a weird shell of its former self. I don't think that too much of the
I
people
don't
have
think they have all their
actually
licensing.
survived it. But yeah, like maybe they can work that out. But like someone should be like someone's leaving money on the table when they shouldn't, and hopefully they'll sort that out so that it
Yeah,
becomes more available in the future.
hopefully.
All right. So lastly, I'm a little hungry, so I think Alex has some strategy to solve that for me.
Uh,
That was a
how hungry
segue,
are you?
Alex. That was
How
a
hungry
segue.
are you?
Talk about your game.
All right, we're gonna talk about.
Stacy in the background just said bad segue. It was a brilliant segue. Anyway.
We'll talk about Don't Starve Together, a online cooperative version of Don't Starve. The game is
I forgot that's online
a
portion.
sandbox survival game, kind of akin to 7 Days to Die or Stardew Valley or Minecraft. Not quite as complicated in the building portion of things, but mainly in the survival portion. So you get dropped into a randomly generated world where you have to immediately find shelter and warmth and food in order to survive your run. There are days and nights and seasons built into the game where each of those times of year and day have their own particular challenges. You have your health that you need to worry about when you fight monsters. You have your hunger that you need to worry about constantly because as you're going through the game, you get more and more hungry. You have to find food and eat food, and now you're no longer hungry. And then you have to also worry about your sanity constantly. So when you see certain monsters, or if you don't make a fire at night, your sanity goes down and down until you start seeing hallucinations, and those hallucinations can eventually overrun you and kill you as well.
Oh, wow.
They become not hallucinations.
They become not hallucinations. They become physical manifestations of your hallucinations.
Yeah, like Cthulhu.
Like
I'm
what?
like Cthulhu.
Cthulhu.
I'm
Cthulhu,
joking.
yeah.
Cthulhu. Okay.
And it's similar in that they can have these tentacle things that attack you.
Uh-huh.
But the game's a lot of fun. I picked it up a while back, but picked it up again recently to play it with my wife. We realized that we can update the settings, so you can make it as hard or as easy as you want. And we made it kind of really easy for ourselves. We started a game that only has daytime and has a longer autumn than it has the rest of the season. So autumn is fairly temperate. There's no extreme heat or extreme cold that you have to really fend against yourself. And the days make it so that we're not worrying about our sanity too much. But really, all we have to do is find food and heal ourselves when we fight monsters.
I
And
really like it when games have that kind of granular, choose your challenge kind of thing.
Yep, and it's really nice because if we're, if we had like a stressful day and we want to just kind of kick back and relax, we'll play that, and there is some level of, we have to keep ourselves alive, but we can now focus on gathering stuff and building really cool things now that we don't have to worry about all the other killer aspects of the game. And it's really interesting.
You're almost playing it as more of a Minecraft.
Yeah. Although from what I understand, there are nights and days in Minecraft as well that can kill you. Yeah. So
random boomers will show up like while you're trying to build something at night, and then just like literally blow up what you're building, and it's just like, fuck this game.
Yep. And like the particular version of the game we have has a Titans expansion where during certain seasons you can find like this fly that is literally like spews lava, or during spring I think there's this moose goose. It's a giant goose with antlers that can really F up your shit. During winter, if you're living near water, if your base is near water, penguins can come out and start nesting in your area, and they are a bitch to get rid of.
Invasive species.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm guessing if you attack them, they'll gang up on you and destroy you.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty funny.
So it's a lot of fun. It's a nice, the way that we're playing it is a nice way to just kind of relax and kind of concentrate on the cool aspects of the game.
Nice. I got a rec for you, actually, a recommendation. There's a game called Raft that is pretty good. I've been enjoying my time with it. You start off literally on one like piece of driftwood in the ocean, and you have a hook that you just like start pulling in wood and other materials to build out your raft. It's also a survival game. You got to eat. You got to maintain yourself with food and water, basically.
Is there room for two people in this raft?
Yeah, I think it has co-op. I don't know up to how many players, but I'm assuming that's what you were asking.
Yeah.
So similarly, you could like build your little paradise together and stuff. It's a fun game.
I'll take a look. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. So that's it for games, which leaves us with our special topic of the day, which is going to be user-created content. So Jeff, you came up with this idea, right? So why don't you lead us in this discussion a little bit?
Yeah, so remember like last summer or 2 summers ago, I was doing like in-game video photography, and so I started to think like when you take in-game photography, who does that photo belong to? You as the creator of the photograph, or the people who designed that particular game? And I actually found an article talking about that, and it's like a pretty big debate. Like, you can argue it both ways, but I definitely agree that it's like taking a picture of the Empire State Building or something. That doesn't mean like you have rights or you own that building, but you have the rights to take like a photograph of it. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, right? I mean, it's sort of this general umbrella of what do we do with our games and what ownership do we have over them is pretty fascinating, because we're in this era of streaming, we're in this era of gaming personalities being a profession. We're in this era of mods. I mean, they've always been around, but the ubiquity or the ease of use to install mods, right? Bethesda fucked around with trying to charge people for mods, which people got pissed about for somewhat the right reasons. Like, part of it was like, who's getting the money here, Bethesda or the people who put in the work to actually make this mod? But it's on the foundation of what they built. So it's a pretty interesting question. I think that I lean pretty hard towards the people who actually did the labor should have some stake in what they have done. And that, when you're talking about framing the photo in Horizon Zero Dawn and then posting it on your Twitter as a way to like get followers to be part of your brand and all that. Like on my mind, that's like essentially yours. Like whatever, you paid for the game. Um, and then you have the more iffy things where you're talking about someone making a mod for a game that was built with mods in mind. Does that, you know, who's really supposed to benefit the most from that? It's hard to say. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I tend to agree with you. I think if they made something in the game that they paid for, it's just kind of theirs already. Especially like you want to talk, like for instance, Skyrim. A lot of people made mods for that. Some people made like whole levels and dungeons for that game. And when you make assets that big and intuitive, that's a whole nother like that. You should be getting paid for that fully. It's not this is our game. No, they put a whole lot of time into this. Someone put I think put like 2 months into making a whole another aspect, like another portion of the Elder Scrolls worlds, and you could just port into it from that game, and like even the new Elder Scrolls Online, people are making assets for that all the time.
Okay. Nice.
Also, on the other hand, when at what point do you start paying these people? Is it at the moment that the mod goes live and people can download it, or is it after a certain time that it's become tested and all the bugs have been kicked out? Because for example, I can release a mod today that puts up a whole new level to Skyrim, for example, and at some point if a player goes into area X, the game crashes or it breaks the game entirely. Did I get paid for that? Should I get paid for that? Right?
Yeah, it's the sort of thing. I mean, there's a few more things I was thinking of hearing everyone talk that we should pull into the conversation. For one, there is a limit to what the community will take from companies, and that limit is Blizzard trying to make the claim in the Warcraft 3 remaster that any mods that you make for that remastered thing is their property. That was part of the end user license agreement for Warcraft 3 remastered, and everyone was like, this is fucking bullshit. They were so mad, and rightfully mad. And like that's the level of like grossness that they will try to get away with. Like Bethesda is, Bethesda didn't do it first, but they absolutely would have. Like they would have done it first. EA, if they built any games whatsoever that like actually had like modability as like a part of a thing, they would do it first, etc. But there is like a bit of a balance. You have hell, for fuck's sake, like the MOBA genre came out of a mod. It came out of a mod for Defense of the Ancients, and like that's a huge thing. So like you can't just pretend like there aren't significant contributions that are coming out of this work that these people put in. I think that it's the lines get so blurred when you're talking about a game like a Skyrim or something where these guys do build with like modification in mind, and it allows community to build these mods and all that. And how is that distinct from Unreal Engine being a thing? How is that distinct from the Unity engine being a thing where people contribute labor, and then in the case of Unity, there's a Unity marketplace where you can put something that you built in to work within the Unity engine, and now it's in the marketplace for developers to buy, indie developers and stuff.
So you
And that's like one level of it. The same dynamic you could imagine a same dynamic happening within a single game, and it's mods and things like that, which would be the ideal version of what Bethesda tried to pull off, I guess.
So I see you're saying like in terms of labor, it belongs to the people putting in the effort and the time to make these things happen. But how about machinima? Like like we were talking earlier about like that South Park episode, like they had to get permission from
For sure, yeah.
Blizzard. So do you think
Right.
machinima is a different category?
I mean, that's a really good point. You have Red versus Blue, and much of Rooster Teeth owes its existence to Microsoft not being a piece of
Yeah,
shit. And
yeah.
like they could have done it, right? They could have been like, you're using our iconic imagery and all that jazz, but they didn't, and good thing that they didn't. Um, I think it kind of does like it's so I think that a company like Microsoft would be within their rights to be like, this is not solely yours. We created the textures, we created the levels, but you're doing this framing, you're doing this writing, you're doing this voice acting, right?
Hmm.
And ideally, they'd be able to share. But there are many ways in which
That could go wrong.
our industry is not like set up for to have all these people play along and share nicely. There's it's all arguable, and I think that if you imagine like a pie in the sky version of all of this, a game that is built for modding would have a healthy modding community that would be able to organize themselves in such a fashion to negotiate with the people who made the damn game, and then basically have some sort of marketplace where they go, look, you put in a shitload of work on the latest Elder Scrolls game, this game is so moddable, we're going to give you 70% of the earnings that come from our content that we're putting in this extra time and putting it into selling. And then maybe after 2 years, that's going to drop to 30% because the game's been out for a long time and it has competitors or whatever, right? Like this ongoing negotiation of how much do we really owe you for putting this platform out there, for putting all of these assets out there to build off of and to make content off of. That would be kind of like my pie in the sky version of that. The truth is, people don't have time for that shit, and it's really
Yeah.
hard to organize online and to make those sorts of demands. But at the same time, you do get some. I don't know if I'd call it organized, but you do get some pushback from the community when companies do scummy shit, and justfully so. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hey Xavi, you're a programmer, right? So let me paint you a picture here. Let's say you're working for a company and the company uses a particular IDE for the platform for, let's say Java. I'm not, for example. Let's say that you're building something, a program for your company or for yourself using this IDE, and then the IDE said, the developer for the original platform says, we own whatever you make on our IDE. How would you
I
feel
mean,
about that?
it would never happen because they know that they just basically committed market suicide. But what you're saying is not like, I can give you more realistic examples of the dilemma you're talking about for sure. I mean, my most of my professional career has been developing for Apple platforms, and Apple has a policy for the iOS App Store and possibly the Mac App Store as well, where they take 30% of everything, of every sale. And big companies are, have pushed back and gone like, no, 30% is too much, that's ridiculous, we need to have alternatives, this will eventually go to court if you continue being this way, right? And they've since implemented something where after you have enough sales, I think they've reduced the take that they have until like 10% or whatever. But it's completely irrelevant because I'm building on a IDE that Apple provides called Xcode, and I'm building off of their frameworks. And in a lot of cases, I'm building off of third-party frameworks that people have put in a stupid amount of labor in for free. Well, sorry, it's not always for free. Sometimes this is what they do, and they get paid, sponsored by big companies who are utilizing those tools. But that's sort of like what they usually start it off for free. But there's people who that's their living. They work on open source software that they get sponsored to do that kind of thing. And it's interesting because programming is the kind of profession where you just cannot pretend that you are building something from the ground up. You like the whole fantasy, I'm sure there are people who do it, but the whole fantasy of like, I built this with my own two hands, it's fucking absurd. It's like, no, I'm on the shoulders of Apple, I'm on the shoulders of all these open source people. Like there's just no way that you can imagine that. And so I do think it pushes programmers a little bit more, to think a little bit more in terms of sharing, because the cost to sharing code to solve a problem that someone else might be facing down the road is zero. There's no cost to me sharing that code, but the benefit that I receive from other people sharing their code is so huge. And
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to like be in the face of that and like try to maintain this attitude of like closed source and all that kind of stuff. And
So
even Microsoft has
yeah.
bought GitHub and is becoming a pretty open source company and all that. So even they're not immune to
Yeah.
like the persuasive argument there.
So the point you're trying to make is that like it's not just one person or one programmer. It's an entire ecosystem that works together.
And it's probably true in pretty much every single profession. It just might be a bit more obfuscated. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
it's really, you have to be like keyed into, like, you have to appreciate like the shoulders of giants, so to speak, that you're standing on when you're producing this kind of stuff. And it's so competitive in a sense that the bar of what's expected to be free keeps getting elevated. Like Apple elevated it a lot through the iPhone platform over the years, and now you see pretty competitive development experiences on other platforms as well, because it's just like they have a lot of people who want to work on Apple platforms because it's a nice experience and they get all this shit for free. So we have to kind of compete with that, which is kind of nice. Will that bleed into this sort of content creation on the gaming side? I'd love to see it happen, where maybe you have take Minecraft, for example, how much user-generated content has come out of that no one's necessarily tried to, be aggressive about and whatnot. But when hopefully one day, for example, Nintendo will stop being a dick and
Oh
allow
God, yeah.
streamers to stream their games and whatnot.
That brings up
Hopefully
another
those
point,
walls keep
actually.
coming down.
You just bring it when you said Nintendo and Minecraft. That brings up another point. My friends are playing some custom made Minecraft Pokemon game. So like the whole world of Pokemon made in Minecraft
Damn!
with all the different monsters,
Holy crap!
and like you can battle and catch them. It's interesting how it's done, but like I think Nintendo on a general scale shut it down. Like you can still play it, but it's hard to find it now.
Yeah, you gotta like rename it to like Peekaboo instead of Pikachu or
Yeah,
some shit.
Oh no,
Like
it's
to
still active. It's just hard to find the code to get
Gotcha.
it.
And that stuff is a shame, because I do think that that's a certain mentality of scarcity and like protecting your copyright that I just have no patience for. I don't like it in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I think that I took a intellectual property in the digital age class, and broadly speaking, what I can summarize a lot of what I learned to is trademark is important and copyright is bullshit. Like, it's important that every time that Marvel puts out an official Marvel movie, I know that that's actually from like the people who made the previous one, so I can expect the quality and whatnot, and I don't get hoodwinked. But if I wanted to film an Iron Man movie tomorrow and put it out and follow all the laws to make it clear that like this isn't an official Iron Man thing, like, and make money off of it, I should be able to do that, in my opinion. And I don't fucking see like why they need to be so paranoid about all this other shit, particularly because that's the way that like creativity works, in my opinion, where we only get more value out of people throwing shit at the wall and being creative and
yeah,
just fucking around. It's
That's
like
how Disney
another
works.
thing that fits into the another thing that fits into the conversation is fan fiction, right? Like, think about the whole fan fiction universe in Harry Potter and how much Harry Potter as a property has benefited from J.K. Rowling not being a piece of shit and suing
yeah,
people for putting out and sometimes making money off of user generated content, so to speak.
yeah.
It's
But if you
almost
see
that
some
end.
of the fan fiction out there, you'd think about suing them.
That's true for anything, bruh. That's true for anything. It's gonna
Yeah,
be 90% shipping people and and other erotic shit.
yeah,
But but yeah, it's kind of all like, I think they're almost like cousin conversations in a way of like who owns that sort of thing. But maybe let's move on slightly to actually it's 12:04. Alex, we got to respect your time. I don't know if you want to bow out or what.
Yeah, I think I need to. It was great talking with everybody, and these were fascinating topics and games that we talked about. I'll definitely check out a few of them.
Yeah, check out the remaining conversation on YouTube when I upload
I
it.
will, absolutely, absolutely. You guys have a good one, and catch you next time.
Enjoy
thanks,
All
yourself.
right,
guys.
man. Peace.
See you later.
All right. So maybe the next thing we can touch on is like, what are our favorite games to create content in? I don't know if everyone has favorites like that.
Um, um, the closest I've gotten to creating any content was in Skyrim, but I was too lazy to learn all the tools, so like I kind of gave up. It's like in your mind, you have this expectation of how modding is gonna be, but then when you get to the reality of it, it's a lot harder than you
But I
think.
don't even mean like the full extent of like modding and actually creating a thing or whatever. Like I'm even because I know that you love taking pictures in games.
Oh,
Like that
yeah,
counts, man.
yeah,
In my mind.
yeah, definitely. Like and sometimes like you have to catch, yeah, you catch a particular moment that's just perfect, like when everything aligns just perfectly for you, and
Hmm.
I love that's probably the best part about making content like in-game photography is that
Hmm.
that perfectly timed photograph that's like 1 in 1,000.
Yeah, where like random shit in the background like goes just the right way. Like
Yeah, yeah, or like you get like random glitches that like
Oh yeah,
make beautiful like photographs.
I
Like,
nice.
haven't done that in a while. You just reminded
yeah,
me. I
like
I had a I used to take a general recordings like of playing different games and finding all the glitches. Like Skyrim had so many, so I would always take a picture where
Oh
you're like
man.
halfway in a building or something.
That's funny. The I think like I've just the ubiquity of photo mode is just something that I really do appreciate.
Mhm.
Um, that's just becoming normal in games. Like Doom Eternal has a photo mode that's in beta. It is missing some of the features you might expect from typical photo modes, but I was already able to like take a picture of like I was jumping at a demon, and then I pressed a button to freeze everything and put it in photo mode, and then I can like pose my guy so that he's like jumping at him with like a blade about to like cut him, and then frame it all right and stuff, and that's just really fun.
Mhm.
So photo modes in general just becoming
yeah,
ubiquitous is
yeah.
fantastic. But my favorite, I actually got to go way back to Sims 2. And I know that like all the Sims games
Mhm.
since then have had like good user created content type stuff, but Sims 2 was the one that I like fell in love with and was playing a lot, where you had this whole thing where you can basically make your own little stories by taking screenshots and videos, and it was in the game that they actually had like these tools to like make a little story, and that was really fun. And I
Yeah.
used it one time very inappropriately for my economics slash American government class in high school. We were told to make a campaign ad as our project. So in The Sims 2, I decided to film various Sims around and make a little story, like a campaign ad. And it was basically an attack ad where I very inappropriately was attacking this fake opponent candidate for possibly being homosexual.
Oh
And
my
my
god.
teacher was just like, "Well, that was a thing. Don't do that again." And I was like, "Okay." Any excuse I had to like use video games to do school assignments, I would do that.
Mhm.
And for
Yeah,
The Sims 2, I pushed it a little too far.
I actually, I actually sent you guys the a few photographs I got when I fell through the map in GTA 5. And all you could see was like the city lights and the cars just floating in midair. So I was like, oh my god, this is like Blade Runner or something.
That brings up a good
Nice.
point. Actually, that actually has not happened to me in a while now. Because I
Yeah,
remember back in the games, you used to always find accidentally go through the stage,
yeah,
and then you
Hmm.
just see the stage as you're falling.
I actually had it happen to me in Doom Eternal,
Oh, did
yeah,
like
okay.
very early on, but it wasn't that big of a deal because I was able to just load a checkpoint. But it was
Yeah.
kind of funny to just be like, "Wow, when was the last time this happened?" In a game.
yeah. So
Nice,
in
nice.
GTA, I was like trying to get like something impossible into like a subway tunnel, and then I fell through the map.
Yeah, it's a common way to like clip through stuff. If you see speedrunners, is if the game has a way to like hold an item, using that item and the collision detection by like pushing it up against a wall or something in a way that like the game doesn't want you to do, that'll often make the game resolve the conflict by just like putting you through the wall. and and then fun stuff happens. All right, so the last thing that we sort of wrote down was like mods, which we touched on quite a bit. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Does anyone want to maybe shout out like their favorite mods? Maybe.
Favorite mods. Oh, I know
Mm.
one. So there's the game. Trying to remember the name of it. The aliens game. I'm trying to remember. I think I talked about it. Oh, XCOM. So
XCOM.
XCOM 2. That's one of my favorite games with mods. Because the second one, you have a mod that changes the whole game entirely into
Hmm.
more of a really war game.
Mhm.
So the way XCOM works, I don't know if either of you played it, but it's an RTS game.
Hmm.
And XCOM 2 is a RTS game against aliens where you're the insurgent trying to take back the planet, so to speak, because the aliens have taken over. Um, and you basically have missions where you're supposed to take certain parts of the land bit, the base, or clear the area of aliens, or save people. And what this mod does is it makes it a system where you can recruit random people as soldiers, and you basically will have certain missions where you have just a variety of people coming in to help you fight waves of aliens coming in.
Hmm. That
So
sounds interesting.
rather than you having your small XCOM team, which is something similar to like Stargate, where you have like 6 people or something like come
Hmm.
in and do a mission and escape. In this mode, you have missions where you'll have your 6 people come in, and then you have militia come in,
Huh.
like from random parts of the map, where some of them you already have trained, but you don't have them like regularly. Like you can just call them for certain areas. I
Uh-huh.
think that was what it was. And basically, you have random militia that you can help you fight off waves of aliens on a
Huh.
mission. And basically, you have setups where you have to help raise up militia in different parts of the globe, as opposed to an original game where you move and get capture points and stuff like that, similar to like
Hmm.
Risk.
Okay, so the militia that you train would actually be local to that part of the world?
I think that's how it worked. I haven't
Damn,
played it in
that's
a while, but
interesting. Wow.
it adds a lot more depth to a game where you really like
Yeah,
really like Risk. You just go and
uh,
do certain things to
yeah,
keep those points working.
that's a game changer. That's interesting.
Yeah. So I don't have a particular favorite mod, but I feel like my favorite mods are in Skyrim. I don't think it's like one particular mod that I like. It's like a collection of mods that work together well, is what I enjoy. So right now
Mm.
I'm like role playing a druid that grows cannabis in Skyrim. It's
and
really
what
fun.
does this strange cannabis plant do in the world of Skyrim?
Well, your character will like smoke through a bong or something. It's really funny. And then the only visible,
Perception goes down.
yeah. And then funny enough, like some of your skills actually get like buffed.
It's
Okay.
hilarious how the drugs worked in that game. Like you have stuff that like really make you trip. And if you got caught with any skooma, you're done.
Yeah, yeah. Like
Skooma was the weed of that world, where it was just
no,
overpoliced.
I think it's more like the meth of
Yeah, it's more
Skyrim.
like the meth.
Oh,
Like you
okay.
can catch with any amount of it, they can start coming after you. It's like, but it just someone dropped it.
Yeah, yeah,
I was coming to hand it back to you guys. I was gonna turn it in.
yeah,
Oh, that's funny.
yeah.
Uh, if I had to pick a favorite mod, I think it was the even though it was like just stupidly difficult, there was a mod for Fallout 4 that turned it closer to the game that I wanted it to be in the first place. So you remember like the whole base building and all that stuff in that game, right? Um, the, it, Fallout 4 in my mind, the base game was just kind of just trying to do everything and like
Yeah, it's Fallout 4.
succeeding roughly at most of the things, but it's not a focused experience. What I was potentially hoping for was something that was a bit more like the AAA version of a game like Ark Survival Evolved or Rust or something like that, because you had all this base building that they threw into the game,
Yeah,
and they talked about how everything that you find in the environment is going to be able to get broken down into component parts and all that. And that sounded interesting, but there was a few things in the game that fundamentally like fuck up that idea, where like you could play Fallout 4 if you were disciplined in such a fashion that you slowly built outposts out as you kept pushing into the city, but you didn't have to.
Yeah.
Instead, there was this mod that basically made a few key changes to rebalance some of the stuff to make it more like you had to engage with the settlement building mechanics. And the particular thing was you could only fast travel to and between settlements. That's it. So
I
it
mean, it
was a
made
bit
sense.
too heavy-handed because in reality the game wasn't built around that. So there was too much time where like you'd lose Oh, sorry, you like couldn't even save, right? Like that was the other key thing that
Oh,
I
wow.
missed. Yeah, so it was pretty heavy. Like if you died on a trip, like you lost everything that you did in that expedition, right? And I really enjoyed playing the game that way, but it was a little bit too harsh in terms of like you could lose 20 minutes of progress and stuff. You could actually layer that in with some other mods so that you could build little camps in certain places so that you could actually proactively save your progress wherever. And those combination of mods started to make it really feel like this good survival experience that I really did enjoy. That it transformed the game in a positive way, and it was kind of what I was hoping to get out of it. And it was a good showcase for like why building a game as like a mod platform pays dividends, because your dedicated users can kind of fine tune the game to kind of be what they want. So that's my favorite.
Mhm.
All right. So if there's nothing else on the subject of user created content, I think we can uh, end the podcast there. How do you guys feel about that?
All right, that sounds good. I'm
Sounds
down with
good.
that.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. Well then, this was the Party Chat Peoples. This is where we're gonna wrap up the episode. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye
All right.
Yeah.
bye.